Thanks for staying with us right here on Sunrise as we continue this Monday morning. Now, today marks the 24th anniversary of Chris Hani's death. Now, the struggle icon was gunned down by white nationalists outside his Boksburg home in 1993, just before the country's first democratic elections. Hani was murdered by Yunus Wuluz in 1993 during the country's constitutional negotiations. To talk more about the anniversary of the late Chris Hani, we are now joined in studio by Alex Mashilo, who is the national spokesperson for the South African Communist Party. And you at home can be part of our discussion by giving us a call on, of course, the numbers I'm just about to give you. And you'll also share your thoughts with us on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And those numbers are 011-447-1742 or 011-447-1620. As we remember his lives and times this year, 24 years later, in 2017. Alex, good morning. Thanks for joining us. How should we remember Chris Hani, the man, on this day?
Chris Hani, the man on this day, should be remembered by what he stood for and what he fought for. And Chris Hani was a communist above all. He fought for socialism, a society in which the exploitation of one person, group, class by another is eliminated. A society in which prosperity produced from socialized production is searched among members of society rather than monopolized between elitist groupings and a few. That was what Chris stood for.
Why is it important, especially this year? Because some of those issues that you're highlighting, it's really, we're at the crossroad of that, and that's what we're battling with. 24 almost years later since his passing, 23 years of democracy, those are the issues that are coming to the fore. We're still talking about, oppression of one class over another, education not accessible to everyone. The feeling that the elite are treating others differently versus how these ideals that he spoke about.
We talk about them because change cannot be achieved completely at one stroke. Secondly, there are challenges in the process of change. There are those who deviate. Instead of serving the people, they begin to serve their private, personal, or family interests, or the interests of their lackeys, friends, and hangers-on. And this thing is what has actually brought about the problems that we are going through right now.
Okay, he spoke strongly about that. Why do you think his memory resonates as strongly with the working class? He spoke about, it's not about good jobs and good salaries when we get into cabinet. It's really about transforming and changing South Africa. How did we lose track of that, if that's something that someone like him spoke about earlier on? His
memory resonates strongly with the working class because he worked very hard to lead in the struggle of the working class. He went to the farms, he went to the communities, he communicated, he interacted with people on the ground. And when our movement faced problems, he didn't die in silence. He spoke, he wrote. Early in 1969, together with 6 other combatants of the MK, wrote a memorandum. The ANC at that time was facing a very serious crisis. There was, in fact, a problem in the sense that there was no clear plan on how the movement would return home and drive out the system of apartheid. He wrote a scathing memorandum together with 6 other MK combatants, assessing the leadership, telling them, talking truth to power, so to speak. If you read that memorandum, you will appreciate who Chris was. And one of the things he condemned were mysterious businesses in which some of the leaders of the movement were involved, and their attention was divided between running those businesses or supporting them and leading the struggle.
So what you're saying is that historically there has been mysterious businesses with some of the leadership, which is something that being alluded to what's happening currently.
Historically, there have been those problems, and historically, there has been finest cadres in our movement who were prepared to talk truth to power, to challenge those. And of course, historically, there were those who, because of patronage, will defend such things. But thanks, it was because of the good leadership of President O.R. Tambo, that after Chris, fell into hot water as a result of that memorandum, President Tambo agreed that a consultative conference must be convened, and that was convened in 1969 in Morogoro, Tanzania. From that conference, the first strategy and tactics document of the ANC was adopted. Clarity was given on the ideological and political character of the ANC and the program of action leading to the democratic transition that we achieved just a year after Chris was murdered by the right-wingers.
Do you think he's passing, and maybe some comrades like him who believed in those kind of ideologies cost the tripartite alliance, that people have moved for some of those causes? If it's there and it's something that was discussed as far back as 1969, what happened to that?
Look, there is a hypocrisy. There are some people you will never know until you give them power. If you give them power, then their inner soul comes out and you begin to know who truly they are when they are in charge. And this thing, when it happens, sometimes it generates the type of situations that we are going through right now. This is why it is always very important not to rely on an individual. It is very important to rely on collective leadership and to hold individuals who are given leadership and official responsibilities in our movement as well as in government accountable according to division of work and those responsibilities. And ordinary people must forget about going to the ballot, casting their vote, and going home to sleep. We must hold those who we elect accountable. Delivery to us is not a favor, it is a right, and no one must stand up and pride themselves. That is their work to do. If they do not do it, it means that they have violated our rights and our constitution. What we need to do is to ensure that those things happen as they should. All
right, looking at the current situation, and you're talking about speaking truth to power and holding people who are in position accountable, who some have forgotten that they're there, to represent the interests of the masses, and people like Tabu are calling and saying, we've lost. The current relationship between the SACP and the tripartite alliance, I mean, what is happening with that relationship at the moment? Because it looks like there is no relationship.
No, there is a problem. There is a relationship, but there is a problem. The alliance between the ANC and the Communist Party, as well as, which includes COSATU and SANCO, and is supported by other organizations, including student organizations, COSAS and SASCO, and religious organizations. That alliance, in fact, remains strategically important. The SACP is firmly committed to it. But its modus operandi is outdated. It has got to be reconfigured to move with the times. If it remains outdated, it is not going to be able to respond to the challenges facing our people, not even to the challenges facing the alliance and individual components.
What are the processes that should be followed to reconfigure the relationship currently?
We are engaging with the leadership of the African National Congress. We should have had a political school with COSATU last Friday. That did not go on, but these engagements have been going on. We have decided as the SACP that over and above these meetings, we must go throughout society and mobilize and present our views and let them be known. Because if the alliance does not reconfigure to function effectively, optimally, and to be responsive to the challenges facing our people, it is going to be irrelevant, and we cannot allow that.
Your response to some of those comments that
most of those comments are correct. And let us say this to South Africans: the constitution of our country is not permanent. It was drawn under a particular set of circumstances to respond to those circumstances and chart the way forward to the future. At all times, it has to be responsive to the challenges we are facing. It has to assist our society seize the opportunities that we have. It must help us deal with the threats we are facing, as well as correct our weaknesses. When we achieve changes, and there is a need for us to make changes to the Constitution, that has to happen. That is a matter of principle. That is why the Constitution itself has a clause allowing changes to be made to it.
There's a lot of conversations about an inquest that needs to happen. There's a feeling that the SACP, in support with the family, are feeling that there's a lot of unanswered questions around Chris Hani's death. Is that gaining momentum, or is it just one of those that just keeps coming up every time we come to, another anniversary of his passing?
It is gaining momentum. In December, we held an augmented Central Committee plenary session of our party, where we officially endorsed the decision to push for the inquest. Following that meeting, we engaged with the family, and we are on one page. We will be pushing. The gun that was used to murder Chris Hani was stolen or was taken from military armory. Who took it, it is not known as yet.
Okay, so now finally, in terms of like SACP's position on President Zuma, you're clear, you aren't, you're saying no, enough is enough. But what are you going to do about it?
We informed the ANC after we took the decision. In fact, the ANC was the first organization or the first person, if I were to make use of that legal terminology, to be officially informed of our decision before we communicated it publicly. And we made it very clear to the ANC that we were available for a meeting to engage on that decision. On Wednesday last week, the ANC came out to accept our request for a meeting. We will be going to the ANC to say, please, advise the president to resign. And these are the reasons why we arrived at this conclusion.
What are the reasons?
Look, the manner in which the president handled the reshuffling was very reckless. You will know that ministers' oversee programs are approved by the president. You cannot approve an oversee program and then recall the minister from that oversee program in order to reshuffle the minister. There was this rogue intelligence report. That's not how we worked. When we campaigned for the president, by the way, we faced abuse of state power. And that time there appeared a report called the Special Browse Mall. These are the things we fought against. And when you look at our country as well as our government, we are moving from one blunder to another, one apology after one blunder, okay? But the situation is not changing. The situation is deteriorating. The ANC is divided. This year was declared the year of OR Tambo and unity in action. Just 4 months in the year, the divisions have deepened and there is no unity. And there is a crisis of leadership under President Jacob Zuma. I wish we had more time for us to table those reasons, and they will come one by one as and when we have the opportunity to explain.